Welcome back to another episode of Our Entitled People, where common sense takes a vacation and entitlement runs the show. Sit back, relax, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Let's get started with the first story. I'm a 19-year-old Asian female, and I look really young without makeup, around 14, tops. This happened a few months ago during the first week of the semester. I was heading to my Latin class, and apparently there was a middle school field trip going on. The kids were all wearing red t-shirts. Coincidentally, I was wearing a light red crop top and a red zip-up jacket that day. I also wasn't wearing any makeup because I'd overslept. As I walked past their group, one of the teachers saw me and immediately came over, looking pissed. She asked, "What teacher are you supposed to be with?" I was confused. She then unzipped my jacket to check my shirt, which shocked me. I asked, "What the hell are you doing?" She starts scolding me for my inappropriate language and says I'll be disciplined for damaging the shirt. Then she grabs my arm and tries to drag me to her group. I'm baffled, but I'm not letting this woman manhandle me. I start yelling, "I'm 18! I'm a college student! Let me go!" She scoffs and says I'm bluffing. Middle schoolers are just standing there, watching this awkward scene unfold. Thankfully, a nearby professor saw the commotion and called campus security. At that moment, I pulled my arm away and ran to the officer. The woman tried to follow and explain herself, claiming I was one of her students. The officer shut her down immediately. He scolded her for laying hands on me and asked me to explain what happened. I showed him my university ID, and her face just dropped. She had to give the officer her information in case I wanted to file a complaint. She gave a half-hearted apology and called it a misunderstanding. Before I left, the officer said that if I changed my mind about filing a complaint, to let him know. He even gave me the teacher's name and the school she worked for. We made eye contact as I walked off, and she gave me one last glare. Honestly, I had bruises from how tightly she gripped me. I should have pressed charges, if not for me, then for her actual students. If that's how she treats someone she thinks is a student, imagine what she's doing to kids. Karen, wherever you are, I hope you're reminded of your harassment every single day. Second story. This happened about 10 years ago. I'm not the main character, but I was standing right there for the whole glorious takedown of a self-absorbed, self-entitled a-hole. In my early 20s, I had a much more active social life than I do now. I spent a lot of time with my friend Katie, a naive extrovert. She always assumed people were telling the truth, but when a lie didn't quite add up, she'd prod until things unraveled. Also, Katie was a looker, like really good looking. So, one night we ended up at a house party. Friend of a friend of a friend kind of deal. We were hanging out on the patio in a small group when someone congratulated her on her new job at a well-known company. Let's call it Widget Inc. That's when Chad, a man in his mid-20s wearing a pink polo and plaid shorts, perked up and slid next to her. Chad said, "Oh, you're talking about Widget Inc.? That's cool. My company and I were working at the executive offices of Widget all this week." Katie said, "Oh, that's so exciting." Chad said, "Yeah, I know the head of Widget pretty well. We've connected numerous times. If we got together for a few drinks sometime, I could tell you more and get you connected." Katie asked, "Oh, do you know Steve or Bob?" Chad said, "What?" Katie said, "Well, Steve's the owner, but Bob's the president. He runs everything." Chad was clearly unsure which way to go now. He gambled. Chad said, "Oh yeah, I know Steve." Katie asked, "White hair? Pretty tall? Older?" Chad looked relieved Katie was offering details. He jumped back on the lie train. Chad said, Yeah, I worked with him a lot this week at his office." Katie said, "Really? He was on vacation." "Are you sure it wasn't Bob?" Chad said, Actually, I don't remember the name, but I'm well connected with the higher-ups." Katie said, "I bet it was Bob. Are you working on Project XYZ?" At this point, Chad's gone from "I know the owner personally" to "I don't remember his name." Chad said, No, it was something else. I can't really talk about it, you know how it is." "But he's a cool guy," Katie said. "That's so nice." "What's your name?" Chad said, "Chad." He tried a suave handshake. Katie said, "Got it." I'll tell Bob on Monday I met you. I'll have to ask him about this secret project." At this point, Chad realized the jig was up. Chad said, "Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, no, don't even mention it. It's no biggie. Anyway, I see a buddy. Catch you later." Chad beelined for the other side of the house. Now what Chad didn't know, and what most of our group did, is that Katie had been Bob's personal assistant for 4 years. And the reason she wasn't in the office last week was because she was on vacation with her dad, the owner of the company. Guys, watching that crash and burn in real time was priceless. Third story. So, we have our fair share of homeless people in my town. The usual, the ones at the end of exit ramps with signs or at the highway lights. Usually, I don't give anything because, realistically, I don't have much to give. But yesterday, I had a decent day and actually found myself with a couple of bucks on hand. I see this one particular man at a freeway light often, and I know some of his story. He uses any money collected to purchase food or drink, not alcohol that I've seen, and he accepts items graciously, not just cash. So I pull up at the lights, wave him over, and hand him the $4 I had. He thanks me and walks across the intersection to the same gas station I was heading to. I go in to get gas and he grabs some hot food and a cheap fountain drink. All good, right? Nope, in comes Karen. The typical look, big sunglasses, the haircut, yoga pants, all of it. She immediately storms to the register and demands a manager. I'm only half paying attention. I just want to get gas. The manager comes forward and Karen points her long, gaudy orange and red nail at me and says, "I need police here. That woman gave a drug addict money outside your establishment. Call the cops right now." Along with a slew of increasingly bizarre nonsense. At this point, it's just me, the man I helped, and a curious customer now glued to the scene. The manager looks confused, so I chime in. Regardless, that's not her business. I gave the guy a few bucks across the street and he's buying food. The manager shrugs, but Karen's not done. She screams that this place is obviously a front for drugs and more nonsense. At this point, I've lost interest. The man buys his food and walks out. I step up to the register to pay for gas. And then, somehow, it gets worse. Karen demands that if I'm paying for his drugs, then I need to buy her gas. She tells the cashier and manager to put $40 on whatever pump she's at, on my dime, and storms out. We all just blinked. I chuckled and told the cashier how much gas I actually needed. I was going to ignore it, but I'm petty. "Put $1 on her pump," I said. Her screaming when the pump stopped at exactly $1? Absolutely beautiful. I got my gas and left as she stormed back inside. Best dollar I ever spent. I'm just glad she didn't harass the poor guy who just wanted something to eat. Fourth and last story. Just before my senior year in high school, I turned 18 and bought a car with my own money. I'd have liked one sooner, but my mom absolutely refused. So in my big act of teenage rebellion, I went out and bought one. A couple of months later, my aunt, let's call her Karen, suddenly left her job from several states away and moved in with us, without her car. She claimed it would cost less to wait 6 months to get it shipped, something about snowbird travel patterns. She was cheap, a user, and an a-hole. As a result, I was expected to share my recently acquired car with her until hers arrived. This seemed deeply unfair, but nonetheless, it was agreed that she could use it for appointments and job interviews since I could take the school bus. My only stipulation, I needed a warning in advance. My bus stop was the second one on the route. It left much earlier than I needed to if I were driving, and I liked to sleep. Karen, however, is one of those people who lives to rile others up and then mock them for getting upset. She always had a complaint, a harsh word, and a feud going. Once she moved in, her complaint was my alarm clock. My room shared a wall with hers, and my alarm was waking her mooching, unemployed, broke ass up every morning. Her suggestion? I should just go to bed earlier so I wouldn't need an alarm clock. Let me break down the morning schedule. 5:30 a.m. My workaholic mom leaves for the office 5:45 a.m. My alarm goes off if I'm taking the bus 6:15 a.m. My alarm goes off if I'm driving 6:15 a.m. I leave if I'm taking the bus 6:45 a.m. I leave if I'm driving half past never. My Aunt Karen needs to be anywhere. She approached my mom about how horrific it was to be woken up by my alarm clock. Her solution? That my mom should wake me up every morning before she left. My mom told her to try earplugs or work it out between us. She wanted no part of the dispute, so Karen starts sneaking into my room and unplugging my clock after I fall asleep. I'm a hard sleeper, so she pulled this off a few times. I was late more than once before I figured out it wasn't the new cat who initially got the blame. One night, I even woke up to see her standing over my bed. It was creepy. I screamed like a banshee and woke the whole house. Karen claimed she was sleepwalking. My mom let her get away with that lame excuse. I thought I'd solve the problem with superglue. Not my brightest move. When that failed, Karen started turning the alarm off instead of unplugging it. So I started sleeping with it, tucked behind my pillow. No way she could do anything to it without waking me. She was pissed. Her next move? She started racing into the only bathroom with a shower when my alarm went off. It was closer to her room, so she always beat me there. She would stash magazines and sit on the toilet reading until 6:20 after the school bus had left, but before, I had to leave driving. Then she'd steal my keys and take my car. She claimed I wasn't paying attention when she told me she needed it. This happened many times. She also took my car evenings and weekends, always right before I had babysitting gigs. It never came back with more than fumes in the tank. She ran out of gas twice and had to call roadside assistance. I was pissed and poor. Eventually, I kept my keys on me at all times, even in the shower. Because yes, she pulled the lock and came in to steal them while I was bathing. Eventually, she asked in advance to borrow the car for a job interview. Then she went to a key shop and got my car keys copied. The next day, even with my keys back in my hand, she pulled the shower stunt again. One day, I head outside, and my car's gone. For a second, I thought she'd hotwired it. When she got back, I confronted her. She smugly admitted to copying the key and called me selfish. I warned her the car was mine. She did not have permission to use it again, that there would be consequences. She laughed in my face. The next morning, my car was gone again, but this time, I called my best friend's dad, a cop and father figure to me. He was sympathetic. Did I mention the car had LoJack? By mid-afternoon, they found the car in the parking lot of an outlet mall. I've heard multiple versions of what happened next, but in the end, Karen threw a tantrum. It ended in charges of grand theft auto, resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, and a license-related violation. She never switched it to her new state. She didn't get arraigned that day. She had no money and couldn't make bail. I deleted her voicemail begging my mom to bail her out. My mom didn't even notice she was gone for almost a week. When she finally did, I explained the car was stolen and I handled it. Karen served 2 weeks in county lockup and took a plea deal. Her remaining savings went to court fees and fines. She finally shipped her car and tried to get a new job, but she couldn't pass the background check. She had been a teacher. Now she had a criminal record. Time for a new career as a telemarketer. She didn't bother me much after that. We ignored each other until I went off to college. And that's how an alarm clock ended my entitled aunt's teaching career. She's never gone back to teaching. Thank goodness. Moral of the story? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's it for today's episode of Our Entitled People. If you enjoyed the stories, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next dose of entitlement. Got a wild story of your own? Drop it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.